Hi, it's Joy Foster, founder of TechPixies and host of the Sparkle and Thrive podcast. And I am delighted today to be interviewing Helen Baker. And Helen has gone through a couple of our programs. She has been living this fabulous life, and I wanted her to tell us all about it. So welcome to the show, Helen. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me.
So let's talk about where you were when TechPixies crossed your path. What was life like? What were you doing?
So at the time, I think we were in 2021. So it was kind of like halfway through COVID. And I was working at Sainsbury's as a delivery driver because I'd quit my job just as the start of the pandemic, in order to set up my business. So I was just doing ads training with Jess Brooks when she organised a Zoom with you, and I did the hot seat. And at that point, I'd probably say my business wasn't either something or nothing, and I wasn't too sure. But after the hot seat with you, I just had a complete mindset shift, and that was it. I just knew that I could up sticks, quit my job eventually, and fly with my business, which just over a year later, that's what I did.
Wow, that's awesome. That gives me chills thinking about that. And tell us what life is like now. I mean, obviously we can talk about the nuances of things that helped you along the way, but a year later, you're fully immersed in what you wanted to be doing. And now a couple years on, what's life like?
So yeah, I'll be 2 years in September since I've been doing this full time. So initially I've been working with environmental monitoring companies and health and safety companies. And I've also done a lot with the sailing world. We did helped with a big campaign for a friend of ours, Guy Waits, who did the Golden Globe Round the World race. And then through yourself, I got introduced to a trio of girls, Vibe the Wave, for their Atlantic Toughest Row. So that was fun to work with them for a little while. And then there's some things coming up that I can't say anything about just yet, but it's in the sailing world. So that's as much as I can say on that one. So I've got a steady stream of clients. I'm just out there doing it and just believing that I can do it, really.
And tell people what you're doing for your clients.
So I started off with social media management, but I quickly realised that it wasn't where my strengths lied. So I do more of a marketing consultancy role for my main clients, and then do the PR and marketing, help with that, and fundraising for the sports teams and things like that. So it's quite varied, which I like, and it's always interesting.
And what's interesting too about what you do is that you can do it from anywhere. So talk to everybody about some of the adventures you've been having the last couple of years. Now that the COVID lockdown has eased and is off.
So the main driving force behind this was so that me and my partner had time freedom. He already had it within his business, but me being tied to a company and holidays just didn't work for us, really. So it was his driving force to get me to think about what business I could do and what I wanted to do. So he helped a lot, and he's really been the strength behind it some days. So I will mainly be found this time of year sailing on a yacht anywhere. So our plan is a couple of years' time, we'll be off wherever we want to be on a boat, but I can still work from anywhere. As long as I've got an internet connection, I'm absolutely fine. So that was our main reason for me doing what I've done.
Yeah, and you really have been able to do that. I mean, that it's so much fun. When you put in posts into the TechPixies group, sharing about the progress with your boat and things like that. So, where did this idea to sail the world come from and really be able to work from anywhere?
So I think we're just both really passionate about sailing, and to find somebody who shares your passions, I think sometimes is very difficult. And constraints of children or anything really, it makes it very difficult to do that. And I know that a lot of people you know, we have to go to work, and then, you know, you look forward to your retirement and do the things that you want to do. But for us, we're in a really fortunate position that we can start that chapter earlier.
And you've built that ability. I mean, you are in a fortunate position, but also both of you have built your own businesses so that you can do that.
Yeah. And so now it's just building and building and building for the next couple of years, whilst fixing up a boat and getting to wherever we want to be.
Yeah. That's so cool. And really it can come down to small mindset shifts along the way that make that dream become possible. So you did our social media management certification course. Obviously, you looked into it and said, actually, now that I know this, I can consult on it, but I don't need to actually do it, which I think is really important for people to know, that actually having something like social media management certification under your belt really gives you the authority to say, you know, maybe we should be using these channels, or, you know, this is the content that we should be creating, even though you don't actually have to create the content or do the actual posting, etc. But understanding how it works, I think, is actually a huge asset when you're doing the consulting. But you also did the Dream Builder program. Obviously, we know that the social media management certification program helped you partly identify, I don't want to do social media, but I understand how it works. But how did the Dream Builder program help shape a lot of what you're doing now?
I'm really mindful of life now. Sometimes life can get really hectic, and it's just remembering to take that step back, to look at your progress and see where you've come from and how far you've come, and be grateful for those moments and appreciate that, you know, you can be proud of yourself for what you've done. And, you know, like we say, no one can dull our shine, because we've built these amazing things. And every day I am really, really, just throughout my life, whatever I'm doing, just so much more mindful about everything, and just remembering what our vision is, because that was to have a yacht and be off to anywhere around the world. And to see that becoming more and more of a reality is just astonishing, because I don't think I would have said that 4 years ago.
Yeah. Well, I think definitely when we first met, it was really just about having the confidence to run your own business, let alone travel the world. I think the traveling the world stuff really came out. It started coming out clearer and clearer on the Dream Builder side of things. And what was one of the key principles? I mean, obviously, notice what you're noticing, consciously thinking, right? Not just living by default, but by design. Those are some of the core principles that you leaned into. Anything else that really was important for you?
The part that helped me the most was building blocks and, you know, the stepping stones, and realizing that you can take a step back and it's not going to hinder you going forward. Sometimes it's just that step back, take it all back in, and then move forward and figure out what it is, what the next step is, and how to get there. And I think that is like a massive thing for me now. I used to get really bad anxiety around my business and just second guessing myself. But having learned to put these things in place, it makes my day a lot easier to be able to use everything that I've learned, so that I'm not getting overwhelmed. I'm not getting myself into a mess, which then, you know, you can soon spiral into something else. And but building blocks really, and just taking a step back, and that scaffold was one of the big parts for me.
But yeah, scaffolding images are so important. So when you have a vision, you want to see yourself in that vision, and you want to create really live, vivid images of that vision. And so could you describe for us a couple of the scaffolding images that you leaned into while you were building your dream? And now you're obviously through a couple of those, but
so I think the main one was quitting my job and being actually in my business full time. That was my first one. So once that was done, and as difficult as it was, and then I'd kind of gone into the unknown, the next one was to secure like my first few clients. So that
I remember that too. It was vivid that you were signing contracts, and that was part of your imagery. One of the imageries, I think, was quitting your job, if I remember correctly, maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it was like you were celebrating with your partner with a glass of
Everything
champagne.
goes to champagne.
Yeah, everything had champagne. No, but it was so yeah. You by quitting your job and starting your business, you celebrated in your mind with a glass of champagne, and
Yeah.
then that's right. And then the contract, there was a contract scaffolding image where you were signing a contract. Okay, and give us another one that you had.
I mean, obviously, my ultimate end goal is the vision of being sailing and being sat out on deck in glorious sunshine, just typing away on my laptop. We were lucky enough to be able to buy a boat that's going to give us everything that we need to realize our dream, which came 3 years a little bit earlier than we thought it was going to. So actually then getting to that point made me realize that it doesn't matter what I do, as long as I'm believing and I'm striving to be there, I can really achieve anything.
Well, and that's really interesting because what you're talking about is time collapsing, right? You have this vision for what you would love. You'd love to be traveling the world, sailing the world, working from anywhere. And you thought it was going to come, say 3 years later, and then here it arrives. And that's really about a collapsing time. And what we know from the work we do in Dream Builder is when you're energetically ready, and you're an energetic match now to the dream, that's when it comes together. So it just means when it accelerates, it just means you're even more of an energetic match to the dream. It's really neat when that happens, and it happens a lot once people start working with the technology. And it's a technology in the sense that it's a scaffolding images are technology, but once you start working with a vision and you lean into that vision on a regular basis, this is the work that people don't do. And they sort of they do a vision board, and then they never print it out and put it on the wall. The work that we're talking about is daily going into the vision, daily living out the scaffolding image, and really in your mind putting yourself in the place that you want to be long before it may happen. But by doing that every day, you accelerate the likelihood of it happening. So all of these scaffolding images that you had created have all come to fruition. You've quit your job, and you've got you've got contracts for clients, and and in fact, one of the things that you put up on social was a picture of you on your boat working away. So you
Yeah.
you're already doing parts of that. You're grounded a little bit, but then you're out on the water and then back. And so when you're creating your new scaffolding images, have you got those in place yet?
I haven't yet, no. I think what the boat needs quite a lot of work. So once that's ready, and I know that we're watertight, I think that's when the next part will come. We are, when I say we, me and my partner are actively looking at our businesses and how we grow them for the next 2 years. And that's probably at this moment in time, that's my next scaffolding image, in that one of the businesses will get sold on.
Yeah.
So that's again a huge thing. But we're really working towards building and selling and getting away completely. That's really, after the sailing and working, it is to be just sailing. That would be the ultimate vision. So yeah, that'll be the next part.
I would think that sailing is such a great analogy for life because, it's not all sun and sunshine and clear weather.
Definitely not. No, it's
So tell us what it's like when you're in the dream. You're living the life that you've always wanted to live, and then you have these challenges come up. What has sailing taught you about weathering the storms of life?
It's preparing in enough time. With sailing, things can change in a heartbeat, and it's working as a team because there's a lot to do when you need to drop sails and get things away. And if you get stuck in a squall suddenly, which it can happen, you have to be very proactive in that moment. There's no time to stand around and discuss it. So it is kind of something we always have a protocol in place if that happens. Ideally, we probably wouldn't set off if we know what's coming. But then just now and again, what the weather forecast says and what actually happens can be two very different things, just as in day-to-day life. you can set out in your morning and within 10 minutes something hits you, which can either you can let it hinder your day, or again, take a step back, look at it. What is the situation? How can I resolve this? How can I deal with it? What needs to happen right now in order for me to do it? So that's a very big thing for me every day.
That's interesting, though, what you're leaning into there. I love what you said. You have to be proactive. So in that moment, and even in life, as we hit a challenge, if we can take action through the challenge, we can get ourselves through it. But what a lot of people, if it's not a life and death situation, tend to do is freeze up. And we talk about that in Dream Builder, the 3Ds, distraction, dissuasion, DEFCON, and this idea that you either go and do something totally irrelevant, to distract yourself. I always say, go organize your sock drawer that you haven't touched in 15 years. Or, you talk yourself out of it, or you just freeze and you don't move. And interestingly enough, in sailing, you can't do those things. You have to deal with it. Otherwise, you've got a real problem on your hands.
Yeah, there's a vast amount of things that can go wrong, and they have happened. And yeah, it's just what you do in that moment. And I have been the one that's panicked when things have happened on a boat and, been the most useless. But then also I've been the one that's told everyone else to, right, just take a deep breath. We can sort this out. It will be fine. Probably not knowing at that moment in time whether it was, but I think just instilling positivity in other people is a huge thing. And that's what I try to do with my business, be as positive as I can with my clients and let them see what can happen. Because I think when you can see the kind of light lift on them, it really helps them to see where they're going. And I think a lot of what I learned in Dream Builder, I do implement into how I deal with my clients now, which really, really helps.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. Well, and you've also helped out with some of our students because you provided an opportunity for someone to work on your account in order to get their social media management certification. So the way our social media management certification works is the first 6 weeks you learn about all the networks and you take quizzes and you get certification. And then the second part of the program, because it's an 18-week program, the second part of the program, the second 12 weeks, you create a plan, you execute that plan, you report on that plan. And sometimes we have people come through our program that don't have a social media account themselves. They are just learning and they want to do it on somebody else's account. And so you offered up for one of our students, one of our TechPixies, to work on your account. And she really learned a lot, and she had a great report at the end of it. And it was really fun to see her get that experience. And there were a lot of hurdles she had to overcome, but you were really, really helpful for her. And I think that was wonderful too, that you gave back to our community in that way.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, sometimes I'd love to be in the position, it was great to do that for Lindsay and let her fly free on it, really, because somebody's instilled confidence in me and what I do and given me the ability to grow. I think it's just an amazing thing to be able to give back to people. I will hopefully have an opportunity to be able to help a couple of other TechPixies over the next few years gain some experience within things that I'm working on, which I just think is really important, because it's not just as easy as, oh, I'm going to learn social media and then I'm going to start a business and then I'm going to get my clients. It is a daunting process and not everybody necessarily wants that. But if you can give somebody the confidence and help them, I just think that empowerment is so much to people, because if people hadn't believed in me, it would be a very different conversation we're having now.
Well, that's so important. And that's what we call in Dream Builder, that's what we call partners in believing. People who believe in you, even if you don't believe in yourself, people who want to see you succeed and they celebrate your success. So that's so important to have partners in believing along the way. Now, your partner is a partner in believing. I know that he's been super supportive of you. And how important have partners in believing been for you?
So important. I still regularly talk with two of the ladies that were in my Dream Builder, and we all collectively support each other through what we're doing. And it's been great to have that connection because we've been through the same thing. and we know how each other's feeling and what it kind of is that each of us wants to hear and needs to hear sometimes. So we still are pretty tight in our little dream builder pod, which is amazing because I've made 2 amazing friends through that. I have a whole network now that I can call upon whenever I need anything, really, which is just invaluable.
That is so awesome. And you do check in with the community, even though you've finished both programs, you check in and encourage others, because you're further down along your path. And that's why I wanted to bring you on the podcast, really, is just to show what can happen 3 years later. You're still going. And the mindset shifts, when you really make them, they are a foundational shift. They're not just a temporary shift. These shifts are fundamental, foundational. It's a whole new way of thinking and being. And when you can apply that over and over and over again, you really build a solid foundation. And that's exactly what you've done. Now, you've also helped. So you touched on it early in the podcast, but I want to go into it a little bit more in depth because I think it demonstrates what you're able to do, but also your passion for sailing. Okay, so just tell us a little bit more about the two sailing adventures you supported and what the results were, just so that people get an idea of how cool, powerful, and impactful you are when it comes to promotion. I'd love for you to share some of that.
So Guy Waits, I've sailed with Guy for 15 years, more or less, since I've been sailing. I was introduced through my skipper at the time, and we just built a friendship. And he would go off and do certain challenges. So he'd sail solo across the Atlantic and back. His boat had capsized, but he's just so cool as a cucumber. Wait till the boat came back round, stepped back on it, and off he went. So he's always had this adventurous side in him. And he put out on his LinkedIn profile that he was going to attempt the Golden Globe Around the World race in 2022. This was originally run in 1968 by the Times, and Sir Robin Knox-Johnson won the race. It then didn't get run until 2018. So Guy was up for the challenge. And Guy is great at what he does. He's great at sailing, getting the boat ready. But I just felt that I could help him with his sponsorship, and that's what he really needed at the time. So I just sent him a message saying, "You need me to help you." And he was like, "Yes, I do." And we had a meeting, and me and my partner set about trying to get him as much sponsorship as possible. And we worked relentlessly for about 18 months on it. So Guy was busy getting his boat ready. We were busy organising events. We were busy talking to sponsors, setting up networking events for him. And we managed to bring it all together with some pretty amazing people that helped along the way. And it was, I think, the 4th of September 2022, Guy set off around the world. And we got to be in France with him as he set off, which was the most amazing experience. And he made it around the world. Unfortunately, it was a non-stop race, but he had to stop twice. He had some issues with his anti-foul, but he was absolutely determined to get around the world and make it, which he did. And it was absolutely amazing for him. And we were watching him every day on a tracker, and it's very, easy to tell him what to do, and you're kind of like trying to will things to him. But he had a fantastic experience, and that was just a massive high.
And you raised a significant amount of money for him.
Over £75,000.
That's hugely significant.
Yeah, we're very lucky that we have a huge network between the two of us that we can leverage on. And I helped him with his social media at the time, and we did kind of lots of videos and things for him as well. So it was just an amazing thing to do, and it's in something that you love, which I think makes you 10 times more passionate about the cause when it is something you love. And that's one thing I would always say is, if you're going to go into business with this, do it with something that you are passionate about, not just something that you think you should do because everyone else is doing it. Just do whatever it is that you want and you can be passionate about, because it'll just pay dividends in the end. Just more for the feeling that it gives you.
That's so true, because a lot of people that I know, when they go into social media, they'll just take any job that comes their way. And actually doing social media in something that you absolutely love and building your clientele around something you absolutely love is going to serve you much better than just taking whatever comes your way. And then tell us about the girls that you helped as well.
So through yourself, put the girls in touch with me. They were called Vibe the Wave. And in December last year, they set off on the world's toughest row, which is La Gomera over to the Caribbean. It's just over 3,000 miles, I recollect. And they needed to raise sponsorship. So it was quite late in the day when they came to me. But I worked with Grace G and Maddie for about 6 months, helping them with what they were doing, their fundraising efforts, trying to guide them in what they could do, who they can talk to, just advising them to get in front of everybody that they possibly could to make their dream happen. They had a contingency plan. There was nothing stopping them getting there if they didn't get the money, which was amazing to see. But it was just so nice to work with them. Just absolutely outstanding ladies. They actually were doing well. They did do so well. But their first half of the race was absolutely amazing. They were storming through the fleet and their boat got punctured by a marlin. Luckily for them, they had the one thing you need in life, and that was champagne. So because they had a champagne bottle that they were able to plug the hole with from their New Year's celebrations. So it just goes to show, wherever you are in life, you need champagne.
There's definitely a theme in this podcast.
Absolutely. So, they just had an amazing time, and that was just so meaningful for me that I was able to help send somebody else to realize a dream.
Oh my gosh, that is so cool. I just love everything about that. I'm glad you shared both of those stories. And that just goes to show also how networking works, because they reached out to me because we both went to the same university and rode it with the same club. And so they, someone had said to them, we need help with this. And they said, have you spoken to Joy? And then I said, have you spoken to Helen? And, you do your part to help someone move forwards. But I love that. Oh, well, thank you for your time today. And thank you for sharing your story. And, I like to, with people who've gone through the Dream Builder program and who are already building their dreams, I like to ask them, if I were to bring you back onto the podcast 10 years from now, what would we be talking about?
You'd have to track me down on my boat somewhere.
Great answer. And do you have any final parting wisdom you want to share with those who are watching and listening?
I really think just whatever it is you want in life, just go and get it. Don't let people tell you can't do it. Definitely don't be afraid to ask for help. I think a lot of people really don't ask for help sometimes. And I always say there's nothing like a stupid question. So whatever, if you feel stupid in that moment, just ask the question anyway, because you'll feel more stupid when you're 15 years down the line and you could have asked it earlier. And surround yourself with positive people. A positive network just makes such a difference to everything that you're doing. That is one of the biggest things for me in life, in business. Just surround yourself with positive people, and
go for your dreams.
Absolutely.
Oh, thank you, Helen. I really appreciate you being here. Where can people find you if they want to connect with you?
So you can find me on LinkedIn, Helen Baker, or you can find us on our company page, Ooh Hula Hoop, and you can find me on Instagram and Facebook.
Awesome. We'll link to all of that in the show notes. Thanks again for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Wasn't that fun to get to hear someone's story of chasing their dreams, literally across oceans on a boat. It's so much fun for me to bring our alumni back, not even immediately after they finish the program, but a couple years after they finish the programs, and see how long lasting that those mindset shifts are. So if you're interested in our social media program or our Dream Builder program, you can reach out to us at TechPixies.com or support@TechPixies.com. There's also a WhatsApp button. And if you want to actually talk to someone in real time, you can hit the contact us via WhatsApp, and we'll be able to engage in a conversation with you to help you move in the right direction for your dreams. Thank you so much for listening, and I appreciate you. Have a great week, and I'll see you next week.